And so, if you look at job ads and you kind of research over time, you see that some of these common things as far as, communication, being able to work with others, thinking through complex problems are never going to go away. Even with AI helping to, as a thinking partner, as a tool, I was just presenting this the other week. Everything still has to go through people to some degree. If you're working for a company and you have this great idea, you still have to convince people of that to actually get it implemented. It could be the greatest idea in the world, but if you can't communicate and
Yeah.
persuade and explain your idea, it's not going to go anywhere.
Welcome back to Relatable Wisdom, the podcast where everyday people share the quotes that have shaped their lives, inviting us all to reflect and grow together. Today we're joined by Dr. Matthew Arrow Metzgar, a clinical professor of economics and an innovative author who's on a mission to transform education through AI. With a unique blend of expertise and passion, Matthew has developed a breaking framework that empowers educators to redesign their courses in just 24 hours. Let's dive into Matthew's journey and discover the wisdom that has inspired him along the way. Tell us your name and a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Matthew Metzger. I'm a clinical professor of economics at University of North Carolina at Charlotte here in the U.S.
Oh, wait, did you just say clinical professor of economics?
That's right.
Wait, I'm confused right now. What, like, this is the first time I'm hearing clinical go with the word economics. Usually I hear clinical psychology, clinical uh, psychiatry and all that. Just out of curiosity, like when you add clinical to economics, what makes it different from the regular economics?
Sure, sure. It is used differently, like you said, for clinical psychology and things like that. But for economics, it's really just means I'm more of a teaching professor, like I'm more of a practitioner. Like I used to work in the private sector, and so I have a little more different type of experience. So I tend to do more teaching than research.
Oh. Okay, so you're more in like in the industry than just advancing knowledge. Does that make sense?
Correct.
Oh,
Correct.
okay. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I learned something new today. Thank you so much, Matt, for teaching me that. Okay. Uh,
Yeah.
um, yeah. Can you share with us your favorite quote?
Well, a quote was, I mean, again, I focus on teaching mostly. And so I always think about teaching as, more than just mere activity. It's the production of value for the students. And so I teach in the College of Business. And so really my focus is, how can I best prepare students for these jobs that they're going to be entering into in the next couple of years? And so I'm not trying to just, give activities and worksheets and all this. I'm trying to actually, develop them to be future business leaders. And
Yeah.
so that's really my goal. A lot of teaching, ends up being just taking tests and things like that. I look at more as, again, a development of a student into a business professional.
Yeah. In just to say it the way you said it in the form is you said the purpose of teaching is not mere activity, but the creation of lasting value in those we serve. Now, as much as everything you said is in simple and understandable English, I'd love for you to like explain in concrete terms the difference between mere activity by giving us an example of what it means to do mere activity and then what it means to create lasting value. Not just any kind of value, but lasting value.
Definitely, definitely. Well, I think a lot of it's been um, made more obvious with AI, with artificial intelligence, because a lot of the things teachers used to do, AI can now do those things
Yeah.
for students. And so, if you just if you're teaching a class online and you just, give students some videos to watch and a online exam, they can use AI, ChatGPT to teach themselves. And then they can use AI to take those tests if it's just multiple choice test. So it's like they're having activity, they're doing things, but they're not really learning anything in the useful sense that, like we said, lasting value, right? That when they graduate and you go to work, they're not asking you to just, paste some questions in ChatGPT and get the answers. They're looking for you to do something, to
Yeah.
help a business come up with a new product, come up with new marketing, whatever it is. And so I think that's really kind of split things open and said, hey, you can't just give some videos and some questions and hope that that's enough. That's really just become activities or hoops for students to jump through. It's more about, can you give them the skills that they need today for what the workforce needs right now when they're going to graduate.
It's a,
I'd
yeah.
say I'd say also even just, if attending lectures. So if a student's just sitting there and listens to an hour lecture, it doesn't mean they learned anything. They could be, on their
Yeah,
phone the whole time. And so, yeah, they're
yeah.
there. They got credit for coming to the class, but it's just activity if it didn't produce anything of value or for their skills, for them.
It's a good thing you mentioned the code, because right now with AI and everything, the code is more true than ever. Like in the past, right? Let's say 10 years ago. I mean, the code was still true then, but then it just wasn't. You know how it wasn't significant. People could not just say, "Yeah, yeah, that's true." But now with AI, where the teachers will give people write an essay, and you just put it in ChatGPT, and boom, it comes up with an essay for you. And the essay is really good, like really good. But then we start asking ourselves, what exactly, why did we even get the student to write the essay in the first place?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I have a colleague that teaches writing, and he's dealing with that. Is that, if you just say, give an assignment, write an essay about this, it's all ChatGPT. And so they've just, had to change directions because, again, it was just, like we said, activities, just doing stuff, but it wasn't, helping anyone's skills.
Yeah, yeah. I noticed you do called the overnight education.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. I just came out with a book, The Overnight AI Educator, because one of the things, um, a lot of educators at whatever level are having trouble trying to make the switch to using AI or incorporating AI in their classes. So a lot of professors, one, are hesitant because it's different than the way they've been doing it. And then two, just, they don't know how much work it's going to be. Because if you have to
Yeah,
change the testing and the assessment, well, then you have to change other things. And so there can be, hesitation or fear to revamp all this stuff that has been working for the last, 20 years. So I'm trying to give people a roadmap to say, hey, it's really not, doesn't have to be that overwhelming. If you just kind of, take it step by step in a process, maybe work with someone, work, do it as a group, you can transform a course pretty quick, and you can use AI tools to help you do that. So, it may seem like a lot of work, but you can use AI to cut that workload down when you make that transition,
yeah,
So there's so many tools out there that can, like you can upload your lecture notes and, AI can create a podcast of it. And then you just can give that to your
yeah,
students. So you don't have to record that podcast. It can create it for you. Google has like audio overviews where it can have two people,
yeah.
again,
Notebook
artificially
LM, yeah.
create, right, right, talk about that topic. So it's like you don't have to do all these long things. You just have to know the tools to be efficient to get this, the new things in place.
Yeah, I like to see a teacher like a chef, right? It puts together different ingredients depending on the type of experience he wants to give to the child or the person he's teaching, right? Or depending on the lasting value he wants to give to the student. So he arranges the things. It's usually design everything together, right? So I like to see the teacher like the chef, the experience is in his hands. He makes the choices and all that. So outside the school environment, most of us we're not necessarily professional teachers, but sometimes day to day we do one or two teaching. Sometimes we teach our our younger niece or nephew, and we want to, you said that you used the word lasting value, and that for me is one thing I that I really 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 paid attention to. Lasting value. It's not just value, you could create value, but then there's something called lasting value. And looking back to when I was young, really really young, when I was in school, I remember there are some teachers that every day with me I still remember them, because they didn't just teach me. I think there's a word. They said the job of a teacher is not to fill the bucket. It is to create a spark to inspire the child, because reading the things I'm doing, most of the things they inspired me. So how can we, is there a framework for we to say, okay, I want to teach someone this skill, and then use this framework or approach to start teaching them the skill, such that we don't just give them knowledge to fill their brain, but we inspire them.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, one of the things too is when you talk about lasting value, you have to think, okay, what skills, are going to be still in demand in 5 or 10 years, or 15 years down the line. And so, if you look at job ads and you kind of research over time, you see that some of these common things as far as, communication, being able to work with others, thinking through complex problems are never going to go away. Even with AI helping to, as a thinking partner, as a tool. I was just presenting this the other week. Everything still has to go through people to some degree. If you're working for a company and you have this great idea, you still have to convince people of that to actually get it implemented. It could be the greatest idea in the world, But if you can't communicate and
Yeah.
persuade and explain your idea, it's not going to go anywhere. And so these human skills, I think, are becoming even more important, the kind of soft skills they call it, because, AI can do a lot of the low level things. And so, when you're talking about lasting value, I think about things like that. Can you get someone to learn how to communicate better, work with others, also be able to work with others who have different viewpoints. I'd say that's a skill that's maybe becoming harder to come by because again, a lot of the world's more online and emails and texts and things like that. So if you're in a meeting and you're proposing an idea and someone's against it, well, you have to be able to handle that, and not just go off the rails, so to speak, but be able to talk through it and try to, get your idea through. So working with others who have different viewpoints is a vital skill, I think. And so again, I try to develop that the best I can in my classes.
Yeah. Would you be kind to share like I don't know, a framework page, a concept, an idea from your book?
Yeah, I mean the cycle that I propose in the book, really a five-step cycle that says, okay, it's based off in education, it's called backward design, and that just means you kind of start at the end. And so step one is thinking about what we talked about. Okay, what skills are in demand? And you can use AI to kind of search through job ads, who's hiring, what sort of skills they need to kind of get that first amount of information. From there, then you kind of build out and you say, okay, this is what we want students to be able to do by the end of the course or when they graduate. And now let's start building the learning experiences that they need, right, to get them to have these skills. Uh, then after that, you think about, feedback and support, because the hard part with these kind of switching to what I'll call open-ended tasks is now someone has to grade them. Multiple choice
Yeah.
tests, the computer can grade it, and so on and so forth. But if you're saying now here's a one-page report you have to submit, someone has to grade that. And so you have to think about, how efficient you can be with the feedback and what you can do in the time that you have. Um, and then so again, you work back through that and then you get feedback from the students. You can use AI as a tool to kind of not assign a grade, but to help grade, so to speak, sometimes to give like a baseline grade. And then you know, get feedback overall at the end of the semester and see how it went and make improvements. But it's kind of just like a big cycle you can run every semester so that one, you're up to date, and then, two, you don't fall 20 years behind and have to do a huge,
Yeah.
improvement. You can just keep with it, once you're caught up, it's easy to just make small changes each time, to kind of make sure you're with the current information.
Yeah, you mentioned feedback. You talked about the backward design. You mentioned researching in demand skills and using you could use AI to do that and check the job market. You also mentioned feedback earlier on. Before you started mentioning, you mentioned five, and now I'm listening. I'm like, did you mention five? You're like five steps. Did you mention
Well,
the five?
I think we talked about getting the job skills
Okay, one,
and right, and then the uh, supporting the learner's development,
two,
um, the feedback,
okay, three.
and um, I think in the book, I don't have it with me because I switched rooms here, but I think we kind of split the feedback into um,
Oh, okay. I could read it for you. Research today's in-demand skills. One, design AI enhanced tasks. Two, support learners with personalized scalable strategies. Provide efficient feedback. That's four. Then iterate and improve with AI-driven insights and teaching tools. Is that it?
right, right. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I was kind of just putting one and two together as far as that when I
Oh,
was,
yeah, yeah. Yeah, because I was
so
like, this
definitely,
thing is
yeah.
not this thing is not up to five. I was like, it says five. Why? What's missing? Yeah, yeah. Thanks for sharing that
Yeah, yeah.
because in today's modern day and age, it's one of the thing of concern for the teacher, not just the teacher, but for people out there. Because now we are asking what ourselves is what was the relevance of the things we needed to learn? Why did we even do things in the first place? So that so that we can ensure that we still keep the level of education so that in terms of quality, so that people who are graduating, they're not just I'm a graduate of this, and I'm like, okay, so can you do this? Can you do this? Like, no, I can't really do any of the stuff, right?
That's right. Yeah, I mean, you've got to. There was an article the other day that talked about the unemployment among college graduates is actually going up a little bit because before, if you graduated college and you started working for a company, you would again kind of start on the bottom, so to speak, but do some sort of like lower level tasks. Well, now AI can do those lower level tasks, so now that entry level position that used to be there isn't really there. And so you either have to be good enough to come in at a higher level, or you just don't get that job. You have to take some other path. So AI has kind of cut
Yeah.
out a lot of those entry level jobs and actually made it a little harder for college graduates to get employed right away when they graduate.
Yeah, I think here is my wide take, right? The goal of education is to instill in people the ability to learn and to learn fast. Because with the way the world is changing right now, there's no sets of advanced knowledge one might think to. I'll give an example. For most fields, right, in the world, if you were to meet a professor, let's say in let's say 1600, right, the professor would not exactly be quote unquote, really, really advanced and smart. Because with the way the world has moved on, has learned so many things and so many groundbreaking technology, so many things that when you even see the professor, you might even think that the professor has the level of like maybe a year one student. I'm just saying. So with the way the world is moving, it's moving like really fast. Like things that would have to happen in 100 years is even happening in 6 months, 1 year with AI and everything, groundbreaking technology. And so the people that would stay, that would survive would be people that know how to learn and know how to learn really fast, like really fast. And yeah,
Absolutely, I agree. And what's been odd in my classes is that I'll put an assignment out there, like we said, one of these AI resistant assessments, and then say I'm going to talk about this assignment over a 2 week period. A lot of times students just on that first day already on their own are doing it and using AI like you're saying, they're learning on their own, they're learning quick rather than waiting me for it to explain in these couple class periods. They
yeah,
go right, they can get that same knowledge online through AI. AI can give them practice problems and everything else. And so they're learning quick. And I say, that's fine. If they can do it and get right to the source, then, more power to them. They don't have to rely on me. It's different
yeah,
from a teaching perspective because, like you were saying before, if you were in the 1600s and you knew this stuff, everyone came to you. You were the dispenser of knowledge. But now it's not true. You're not. All your knowledge is available in AI as well, and so they can get it in different spaces than they could before.
yeah, yeah. Oh, thank you so much, Matt, for sharing with us some of the approach and perspective into us looking at teaching and also learning.
Yeah, I mean, it can, what we're talking about can be applied at all different levels. Again, I teach college, but in the high schools and other type of levels that they're dealing with this too. AI is big in high schools now. High school students use it, so it's really a sea change for teaching and learning. But I think there's a lot of positives that can come from this. So while it causes people to have to change and adapt, that's not always a bad thing. And I think a lot of positive developments can come from this.
Yeah, thank you so much. If people want to learn more about you and the book, The Overnight AI Educator, where can they do that?
Right. It's just website's overnight.education. So pretty easy to remember. And then the book's on Amazon as well. Just got released a bit ago. So the Overnight AI Educator on Amazon, if they want a copy, it's an ebook. And yeah, and if anyone wants to email me, I'd be happy to talk more about it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Matt. It's been a pleasure chatting with you.
Yeah, and Wisdom, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. Yeah, it was great being on the podcast.
Thanks for listening to Relatable Wisdom. If you found something meaningful in this episode, make sure to follow or subscribe wherever you're listening. If you'd like to support the show, you can do that by buying me a coffee. The link is in the show notes. Every little bit keeps the conversations going. I'm your host, Wisdom Okonkwo, and I will see you in the next one. Until then, staying curious, stay inspired, and keep growing.